Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Seeing Hope Tech Talk of 2026. Seeing Hope Low Vision Programs is our new branding for all our low vision programs. This includes the low vision rehabilitation clinics, the low vision resource centers, our tech talk, and town hall meetings. So you will see this new branding from now on. For today's Tech Talk, I would like to welcome back Luke Scriven, who has joined us in November 2024 when he did an excellent presentation on Windows accessibility. Luke is the Assistive Technology Specialist with Vision Forward. Vision Forward is an NGO in Wisconsin. And I love their YouTube. They have presentations. Luke, is it twice a month?
We do every week we have something, so either a produced video or a live stream will be happening every week. So
could you talk a little bit about what you do? And then today's topic is Mac accessibility.
yes. So yeah, I'm an assistive technology specialist. So I work with individuals here who want to learn how to use different types of technology. I'm focused on the high tech stuff, and so it tends to be a lot of computers, tablets, and smartphones. But then also assistive technology devices, so wearable electronic magnification devices, optical character recognition devices. Recently, we've been doing a lot of Meta glasses demonstrations and trainings. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to try out the Meta glasses, but they have proved to be a very good tool. Looks like you have some familiarity with them, Tara.
Yes, we do. And we have them at our centers for whoever would like to try them out. We're happy to help with that. And we had a couple of presentations on them too.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are really good. But yeah, my colleague and I also have a YouTube channel. So it's can be found at let's have a think about this, youtube.com/Vision Forward Tech Connect. And there we have a bunch of videos that we've made over the past coming up 6 years, I think now, about various different assistive technology devices, various different kind of training videos on different things. So it's a good resource to go and take a look at if you're interested in a piece of technology. We probably have a video on it. We also have a learning management system where you can actually watch kind of specific training videos that are a little bit more formal. We have a new screen reader series coming out. So that should be releasing, the first part of that should be releasing either this week or next week. And that series is going to be covering how to use a screen reader from first principles all the way up to web browsing, which is kind of the most complex thing that you would probably find yourself doing with a screen reader. So it will take in, using it's Windows-based screen readers. So it will take in kind of, controlling Windows, doing file management skills, using a word processor, doing emailing, and then working up to internet browsing. So yeah, if you have an interest in learning how to use a screen reader on PC, then that series would be a good one to watch, and all of that content is free. And that's kind of what I'm up to. But today we're going to be talking about Mac accessibility. Now, I will admit straight up, I am not a Mac user. I'm a PC user. Really a matter of preference. The Mac has got a bunch of good accessibility built in. So, whatever your preference is, I think you will find some tools there that can help you out. But yeah, today we'll be taking a look specifically at the Mac accessibility options. If anybody has any pro tips that they know about, that they want to interject with as we go along, then feel free to let us know what you know. Since, like I said, I am not the expert when it comes to Mac, but I do know some cool stuff, and so we'll take a look at that. So first thing is I'm going to share my screen here. Now we haven't tried this out, so hopefully this will all work okay. Let me go ahead and see if I can share here. Share some. Okay. So yes, I instantly ran into a problem here because I do have my resolution changed, which is one of the things I'm going to be showing to you guys. But it means, unfortunately, the share screen doesn't fit on the window. So I'm just going to change my resolution and we'll try this again. All right, so let's try this again. Okay, so it says I'm in screen sharing. Hopefully you guys can see my screen.
We can, but it's very small.
Very small.
Okay.
Okay.
I can see,
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
see your screen.
yeah,
Okay. Sounds like we might be in business here.
yeah.
All right. Now, it did tell me, oh, I've got some permissions. Let's see, okay. All right, we're going to see how we get on here. So the only thing I'm not 100% sure about is whether audio is going to be shared or not, because it popped up with some message when I said to share audio that indicated I needed to install something. So when it gets to the portion of this session where I'm going to be talking about the computer reading aloud, you may or may not be able to hear the voice of the computer. If you can't hear it, just let me know. And you'll just have to take my word for it that it is reading aloud, and then you can try it for yourself. So, all right, so we are here in the Mac, and I am just on the desktop screen. And we're going to start off just talking about some stuff which isn't specifically related to the accessibility settings. And so we do have on the computer accessibility settings, which are there kind of specifically to change the way the computer appears or the way the computer operates. If you have a disability, whether that be, vision impairment or physical impairment or whatever. But there's a number of other things that we can do outside of the accessibility settings, which can also be helpful. And so I wanted to start off with those things. Now, in order to do a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, we do need to go to the system settings. And the system settings is kind of indicated by a gray square with a cogwheel in that can be found in the dock at the bottom of your screen. And so the dock is that horizontal bar that runs along the bottom of the screen that has all the different icons for the different programs in it. And the system settings icon, again, is a gray square with a cogwheel in it, and it should be located to the right side of that dock. And so once we've found that, we can go ahead and click on it to bring up our system settings. And this will give us a window, which is split into two different halves. Well, I say halves, but really it's just two different areas, I should really say, because one area is bigger than the other. The left area is a list of the different settings which are available, and the right area will show us the options for that particular setting. And we're going to start off by looking at the displays setting, which would be on that left area. And if we click on displays, on the right side, it's going to give us options for things that we can do with the display to make it more accessible. Now I am running, let's see, Sequoia. Sequoia is the version of the operating system I'm running. So things may look a little different depending on what operating system you're running. So that's just something to bear in mind there. But in the display settings here, we have at the top some little images. There's 4 images which represent different screen resolutions. And the one on the left says larger text. The next one to the right doesn't actually say anything underneath it. The next one to the right says default, and the next one to the right says more space. The point of these is if we click on one of the little icons on the left, the further to the left we go, the larger it will make everything. So we're changing screen resolution to make things larger. Now I'm going to try and do this here, and hopefully it won't mess up our screen share. We'll give it a try. So I'm going to click on the icon on the left here, and I'm going to tell it to change resolution. And I don't know if for you guys that has changed anything. Hopefully you're still able to see my screen.
Yes, it's much better.
Okay, good. That was good. And this is actually where I started. So when I joined today's session, I started here, but I had to change it back again. And so the problem with changing our screen resolution is sometimes it will mean that windows cannot fit on the screen anymore. And this is the problem that I was having with Zoom when I went to share my screen. The share screen window no longer fit on the screen anymore. And so the button that I needed to press to share the screen wasn't visible on the screen. It was off the bottom of the screen and I couldn't get to it. And so I had to change the screen resolution back again. So this is the problem you have with changing resolution in general, is it can mean that some things just don't display properly anymore. Now it's going to be dependent on what you're doing. And so you might find everything's completely fine with what you're doing on the computer. But if you do run into a problem where you can't see something in a window that's on the screen and you can't move the window to get to the thing that you're trying to see, then it's probably because your screen resolution is set too low and you need to increase the screen resolution to make things smaller again. So there are some concerns there, but in general, the nice thing about using these buttons here to change the screen resolution is that everything will get bigger. So it doesn't matter what you're doing on your computer, it's going to get bigger. All the words are going to get bigger. All the pictures are going to get bigger. Everything is going to get bigger. Now we can access other resolutions. There are only four which are displayed with these little icons, but we can actually access a list of other resolutions. If I scroll down, there is an advanced button at the bottom of this display window. Clicking that will open up some options, and at the top it says show resolutions as list, and there's a little switch we can hit. I'm going to hit that switch and then press done. Now, those resolutions which previously were shown as little pictures are now in a list here, and there are four resolutions, but underneath the list there is a show all resolutions button, and if I hit that, now I have a big long list of different screen resolutions that I can use. Now, the thing to remember is the lower the numbers, the bigger everything will get, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but that's the way it works. So if I have, for example, numbers that say 960 by 600, that's going to be much bigger than if I have numbers that say 1710 by 1068. So the lower the numbers, the bigger everything will be. So you can kind of play around with these, and see if any of these work well for you. But like I say, just bear in mind some stuff might display properly, might not display properly, so you have to be a little bit careful. If anybody has any questions as we go, by the way, feel free to shout out. It's not a problem. All right. So that was our resolution. And yeah, like I say, it might be a good place to start just because it will make everything bigger. Next thing I want to look at here, which is again not in the accessibility section, it's just in the general settings. So on the left of our system settings window, this time I'm going to click on appearance. And here we can change, really kind of the thing that I wanted to look at here was changing the color of windows. I've got my windows set to black at the moment. And so this window, the system settings window that we're looking at, has a black background and white text. I chose that, but you might not get on with that. You might prefer it the other way around. And here in the appearance settings, we can change it to a light setting, for example. And so now the window, the system settings window, is now much lighter. So it's not exactly white, it's kind of like a gray with a black text. If I switch back to the dark again, now we have the black background with the white text. So you can kind of choose, whatever works for you. There is also this accent color option as well, and this will kind of change the accents around windows. I don't think it would honestly make too much difference in general, but if you wanted to play about with it, you certainly could do. So that's our appearance, where we can change the colors in between the light scheme and the dark scheme. We also have, if I can find it here somewhere, here we go. So in the system settings on the left, we have desktop and dock. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what we have here at the top of the desktop and dock options is the ability to change the size of the dock. Now, again, the dock is the area along the bottom of the screen that has all the different icons for the different programs. And they can be kind of hard to see, but luckily we can change the size of the dock. Now, there's two ways you can do this. You can shrink the dock itself or enlarge it, but it can only get as wide as the screen. And so enlarging it, it's only ever going to get as wide as the width of the screen. But the other thing we can do is use a slider to enable magnification. And what this will do is as we run the mouse over the dock, the different icons will become magnified as the mouse moves over them. And that can make them way easier to see. And then obviously when we're on the one that we want, we can just click it and that will go ahead and open up that program. The magnification slider in the desktop and dock settings here allows us to change the level of that magnification. So here I just made it a little bit smaller. And so we're still magnifying, but just to a lesser degree. And then if I increase it back again to the top level, this is the maximum level of magnification here. So again, it's not specifically an accessibility setting, but it is pretty useful, I would say, for helping to see some of the things in the dock there. So let's continue in the same vein, talking about things which are not specifically in the accessibility settings. And let's take a look at how we can make files larger when we are navigating through the files in our system. And so we have the Finder that we use for seeing our files. And the Finder is the area that we go to when we want to, for example, locate a saved document or look at the different applications we have on our computer. I'm in the Finder at the moment, and I have 3 documents in my documents folder here called Test, Test2, and Test3. Now we are able to change the size of the icons for these items here in the Finder. And we can also change the size of the words underneath the icons. So first of all, if I want to make these icons larger, we can do a Command plus. So holding down the Command key and pressing plus. And that will make the icons much larger, as large as we want them to go, really. And so that's going to make it a lot easier for us to see exactly what we have here. But we also have these words underneath the icons, and as we did a Command plus, the size of the words wasn't changing. But we are able to change the size of the words underneath. So for example, this document here, I've made the page large, but the word underneath it says test is still quite small. Well, what we're going to do up at the top is our Finder menu. And from the top left, it says Finder, then it says File, Edit, and View is what we're interested in here. If we click on View, it will open a menu. And if we go down to the bottom of the menu, there is something that says Show View Options. Clicking on this will open a window that gives us some additional options for our Finder window. And one of those is text size. It's about halfway down. It says text size. I think 12 is the default. If we click the drop-down box here, we can set it to 16. Yeah, and that will make it larger. Now, it looks like 16 is the maximum size, so it doesn't look like we can necessarily make it the words huge. But if we look at the word test now, it has become larger, gone from 12 to 16 point. And so again, that can just make it a little easier to see what we have in our Finder. We can also change the icon size from this window that I have open at the moment. So rather than doing the Command plus and Command minus, we can change the size of the icons from this window. And we can also change the spacing of the icons, make them further apart. It doesn't actually seem to be doing anything for some reason, but theoretically, this should adjust the spacing. It might be that we just don't have enough files saved here at the moment. But anyway, those are some useful things that we can do to change the size of things in our Finder. Let me see if I can move this out of the way. There we go. Now we can also have the things in the Finder displayed in a different way. So at the moment we have them displayed as icons, but we could have them displayed as a list instead. And so in the Finder window here, if we look kind of just above where our first document is, and it says the word documents, if we come directly to the right of that, we have these little icons. The first icon is four squares arranged in a square. And this shows us that we're in this kind of view where we get these icons as well as the words. But the next thing along, which is three dots with three lines next to them, this will display the things in the Finder window as a just a list of words instead. So here we have test one, test two, test three, just in a list. And we can use Command plus here to make those a little bit larger as well. And so rather than having to deal with the large kind of icons, you can just have your files listed like this instead. So a few just different options for the Finder there. If the Finder is something which you're using, then there are some ways to kind of modify it to make it a little bit easier. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you is something that is actually not built into the computer, but it's something that you might want to try. And it's called Morphic. Have you guys ever covered Morphic before, Tara?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so Morphic is a really cool project. I think it's been done by a university, but I forget which university, unfortunately. But I saw them present at a conference, which is how I found out about it. It's a program that's available for Mac and for PC, and you can download it for free. I'm not sure what their URL is, but let's see if we can find it just so people know where to go. Give me a second here. Oh yeah, so it's just Morphic.
Could you spell the word
Yeah,
Morphic?
yeah, sorry, it is a weird word. Yeah, so the spelling is Morphic. And the web address is morphic.org. So morphic.org. And hopefully Tara might be able to put that in the chat as well. Yeah, and so Morphic, you can go to their website, and like I say, this is something that's available both for Mac and PC, and it actually works the same and looks the same for both systems. And so if you know how to use it on one system, you know how to use it on the other. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can bring it up here. And so I just opened up the Morphic control panel. This is a panel that goes across the screen here. Now I've got it at the top of the screen, but it can be moved. The position can be moved. And it has a number of buttons which are labeled with their operation. If you put the mouse onto any of the buttons, a large description of that button's function will appear in the middle of the screen. So we can see at the moment I'm on the button that increases text size. Next button would be decrease text size. Let's actually look at these buttons here quick. So the idea of Morphic is it is just doing stuff that you can do in your computer settings, but it's making it much easier for you to locate and carry out those functions. So for example, at the start of this session today, we had been talking about resolution settings, and I had shown you how to go into your system settings and go to display and then change resolution. But the Morphic control panel actually puts those controls right at your fingertips with the plus and the minus options here. These will change the screen resolution for you without you having to go digging around in your computer's settings. So if I hit the plus, it's going to make stuff bigger. If I hit the minus, it's going to make stuff smaller. And you can hit, those multiple times to cycle through all of the different resolution settings for your computer. We also have, the next thing is the magnifier. And this button, it says it turns on a magnifying lens. If we go ahead and hit that, it's going to bring up our magnifier lens. And the magnifier will follow the mouse around. And we can use the magnifier to magnify things, obviously. Now I'm saying it, it's very obvious. But yeah, you can bring the magnifier up at any time to magnify things. Now, we are going to be looking at the magnifier more when we look at where it is in the Mac's system settings. But just know that you can turn it on at any time from your Morphic bar by hitting the show button. And when we're done with it, we can hit the hide button to go ahead and turn off that magnifier lens. So again, this is stuff we can do with our computer anyway, but Morphic just gives us a very easy way to do it. The next thing we have is a copy function. We can click the copy button and then drag a box around what we want it to copy, and it will just copy whatever we dragged the box around. So if you're trying to copy some text, you can just go ahead and hit the copy button, and then you can drag a box around the text that you want it to copy, and it will copy that text for you. So that can be quite handy. And then we have a read selected option. Now, I know that Tara had mentioned that one of the things that she wanted me to touch on is having the computer read things aloud to you without the use of VoiceOver. So VoiceOver is the screen reader that's built into the Mac. Now, I will admit, I'm not a VoiceOver user, and it works completely differently to JAWS, which is the screen reader which I am more well versed in. And so I'm not going to be telling you really much about VoiceOver today, but you would only really need VoiceOver if you're very low vision or if you're blind. If you are still using the computer visually, but you need some stuff read aloud to you, this read selected option that we have here in Morphic is really handy, and it does exactly what it says it does. You select text, and then it will read the selected text to you. Now, the tricky part of this is selecting the text. So this may be, maybe easy, maybe hard, depending on your vision. Well, let's give it a try here. Now, like I said, I don't know if audio is going to come through or not, so we'll have to find out whether you guys can hear this. But I'm going to go ahead and highlight some text here. This is just in an email in Google. So I highlighted the text that I want it to read. I'm now going to go up to the read selected button, and when I hit this, it should start reading that text aloud to me.
Hello, Luke. Thank you for registering for a Prevention of Blindness Society of Metropolitan Washington Seeing Hope event. Event information. Seeing Hope Tech Talk, Mac Vision Accessibility January.
Hey, that sounds familiar for some reason. Don't know why. It seems like you could hear that, Tara?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
we could hear it.
All right, so you could hear the voice coming through, and it was just reading the text that I had highlighted on the screen there. Now, this could be, any text. So it could be text in a web page. It could be text in an email. It could be text in a document. It doesn't matter. As long as you've highlighted it, it should be able to read it aloud to you. Now, again, I'm doing this through Morphic, but you can do this without Morphic. All of these things can be done without the use of Morphic. Again, Morphic just gives us a very kind of straightforward and easily accessible interface for doing this stuff. And so, if you need things to be simplified, Morphic is a great way to do it. Now, Morphic, the downside to Morphic is it does not give you access to all of the settings, all of the options. So for example, a really obvious one here is we can turn on the magnifier lens here, but Morphic doesn't give you a way to zoom in inside the magnifier lens. And so you're stuck using it at the magnification that it's set at. So there are some limitations to how it works. And when we go into the system settings and look at accessibility in a second, you'll see that you have a lot more options in there for customizing how things work. But the great thing about Morphic, though, is the fact that it's just very simple to use. There are some additional options here for turning on color filters for color blindness, and then also for changing the windows between the dark and the light theme, which we had already looked at in the settings. So there's some other options there. You can also copy your settings from one computer over to another computer. And you can save different combinations of settings and give them different names and load different combinations of settings as well. So you could set up, maybe settings for using the internet, settings for using your email program, settings for writing a document. And you can save all of those individually and give them their own names and then just load those settings whenever you're doing those tasks. So pretty cool, and it's free. So, why not give it a try? I mean, Yeah, it does a great job. Okay, so now we've looked at morphic. Let's actually,
I had a
oh, yeah, go ahead,
I had a quick question.
please.
So is this something that's like you access it once and then it's just automatically on your computer every time you turn it on, or is it something that you need internet access when using?
Fantastic question. No, you only need internet access to download it. Once you've downloaded it, it's going to be available for use. So in the case of the Mac here, it's actually in the bar across the top, kind of to the left of where our Wi-Fi settings are. We will find the little morphic icon, and we can go ahead and click on it at any point to bring it up. So yeah, no, great question though.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so let's now dive into the system settings again. And we're going to take a look at some of those accessibility settings, the settings which are designed more specifically for people with disabilities, including people with vision loss. So I'll open up my system settings. Actually, let me close this browser window. Right. Okay, we'll open up our system settings here. And so this time on the left side, we're going to go to where it says accessibility. And that is going to open on the right side a bunch of different accessibility options. Now, all of the vision ones handily are organized at the top. And so we have access to all of the different kind of vision modifications right away. And the first one is VoiceOver. Now, like I say, I am not a VoiceOver on Mac user, so I'm not going to talk about that. But this is the screen reader that would allow you to use the computer completely non-visually. So if you were just operating the computer with your ears, then VoiceOver is what would let you do it. Now, I am well versed with VoiceOver on iPhone and iPad. And again, that's a screen reader on those devices. And it's a very well featured screen reader. So you can completely use your computer non-visually through the use of VoiceOver, but we will not be looking at how to do that today. And what we are going to look at is the zoom. So that's the second option here. I'm going to go ahead and click on zoom. And in here, we have some different settings. Now, I had already showed you how you can turn on the magnifier through Morphic. But now we're going to look at what happens if we go into the settings, what additional options we have, which can be really helpful. So the first thing that we have is the option to enable using keyboard shortcuts to zoom in. So this would be pressing a combination of keyboard keys to turn on and off zoom and zoom in and out. And if we enable that, we are able to press Option Command and the number 8 to turn on zoom, and then Option Command equals or plus, and Option Command minus to zoom in and out. Now, I would recommend not doing that for the most part. If you have a different way of doing it, because it's just, I don't know, it seems like a lot of keys to have to press. And oftentimes we have some better options. So here we have an option called Use Trackpad Gesture to zoom. This would be available if you have a trackpad. And this is actually can be a little bit tricky depending on your ability to carry out gestures. So if we're using our trackpad, which is our mouse, another name for our mouse, then we can do a double tap with 3 fingers to zoom in, to turn on the magnifier. So I'm doing a double tap with 3 fingers here. And then we can also do a double tap with 3 fingers and a slide up and down to zoom in and out. And you'll remember with Morphic, we could not zoom in and out within our magnifier. But if we're doing it this way, then we are able to. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this method for anybody unless you have been using magnification on your iPhone and iPad this way. Because iPhone and iPad have had this gesture for a long time for magnification. And so it might be that you're already used to doing these 3-finger double tap gestures. And if you are, then this is a fine way to do this. But if you're not, they're not the easiest gestures, honestly, to do. And so my recommendation would be, now I can't turn up my magnifier. There we go. My recommendation would be doing this next option, use scroll gesture with modifier keys, and enabling that one. And then underneath there, we can choose the modifier key that we want to use. Now, a scroll gesture, it could be the scroll wheel on your mouse, depending on what kind of mouse you have. If you have a touch-sensitive mouse or a trackpad, it's going to be two fingers pushing upward or downward. And we have to be holding the modifier key at the same time. So the modifier key is set to control by default, but clicking on the drop-down box, we can change our modifier key. I'll leave it on control for the moment. So if I have this enabled and I hold down control and then push two fingers upward, it's going to turn on the magnifier and allow me to change the magnification level. So control and two fingers up is going to zoom in. Control and two fingers down is going to zoom out. If you have a scroll wheel on your mouse, you can just use control and then scroll the wheel up to zoom in, scroll the wheel down to zoom out. There is also some kind of, what's the word here? Some, what's the word I'm looking for? God, this is a hard one. I'll just cheat and say some motion to this, and by which I mean, this isn't the right word, but the idea is if I hold down control, I can flick with two fingers and it will zoom in really quickly. Excuse me. It will zoom in as much as I flicked. So you can really quickly kind of flick your fingers up to zoom in, flick your fingers back to zoom out. And you might not exactly get, the precise kind of level of magnification that you need. But if you get pretty good at this, then you can really zoom in quickly and zoom out quickly, which can be kind of nice. Now, the other settings that we have here, which are really useful, is the zoom style, which is set to picture-in-picture at the moment. That's what Windows would call their lens mode. And it just means basically a magnifier lens that follows the mouse around. That's what it's set to at the moment. But here under zoom style, we can change that. And so we could do a full screen, for example. So now when I zoom, the entire screen zooms in. Now, I'm not sure if this will show over Zoom or not. Tara, is this showing over Zoom?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the full screen Zoom doesn't show over Zoom. That's confusing because we're using a program called Zoom and we're zooming. But anyway, yeah, the full screen doesn't show. But when we do a full screen zoom, literally everything gets zoomed in. So it's not a little window following the mouse around. You're literally magnifying everything on the screen. Now, the downside to that is as we magnify everything on the screen, we see less and less of the screen. Our field of view reduces. And so we have to kind of like move around the screen, push the screen around with the mouse in order to kind of move around. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but something that you should definitely try to see whether you like it or not. We can also do this split screen as well, which is kind of what Windows would call a docked mode, where some of the screen is magnified, some of the screen isn't, and as we move the mouse around the bit of the screen that's not magnified, it will show up in the magnified area, enlarged. But let's go back to the picture-in-picture here, which is where we started. Do you see this? Do you see this magnifier, the lens here?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this lens here is kind of what we had initially. Now, there's a couple of things that annoy me about this lens. Number one is it's quite small. And number two is, in order to move it around, you have to move the mouse to its boundaries and push. So for example, if I want to move it up, I have to move the mouse to the top of the lens and then push upwards and it will move up. If I want to move down, I have to move the mouse to the bottom of the lens and then push downward, and that will move it down. Now that annoys me. I just want it to follow the mouse without me having to push the boundaries. And we are able to do that, luckily, as well as change the size of the lens. And so next to zoom style, where I chose picture-in-picture, we have size and location. I'll go ahead and click that. And it will bring up the lens with a big OK button in the middle. And what we're able to do is move the mouse to the boundaries of the lens, and it will give us these double-headed arrows that we can use, and we can click and drag the lens to a different size. So you can, just change the width, you can just change the height, or you can change both. And once you hit the OK button, it's going to remember that size. So next time I turn on the magnifier, it's going to be at that size. So that's really handy. Underneath that size and location button, we have an advanced button. And this is going to bring up some additional options, including choosing when the lens moves. So at the moment, it's set to when pointer reaches edge, which is not what I want. I want it to move continuous. Sorry, I'm going to do, well, yeah, we can do continuously with pointer, which is the first option. I'll go ahead and hit the OK button. And now when I turn on the magnifier, it's going to just move with the mouse, which I find is a little bit better. Now, the weird thing about this is the mouse, it can still actually move around inside the lens, but it moves the lens at the same time. But the mouse isn't always right in the center of the lens. And so the other thing that we can do, if we go back to those advanced settings, is we can choose the other option, keeping the pointer centered. And this time, when I zoom in, the mouse is always going to be right in the center of the lens as I move the lens around. So I'll always know exactly where the mouse is in relation to the lens. When we get to the edge of the screen, I can't move the lens any further. And at that point, the mouse will be able to continue moving without the lens moving. But otherwise, it's just going to be right in the center of the lens. So I find that a little bit easier, but all of this stuff is really just down to personal preference. So you play around with it, see what works the best for you. Another cool thing that we have in the advanced functions here is the ability to invert the colors inside the magnifier. There is a button we can use to enable this. And so now when we zoom in, all the colors inside that magnification lens are going to be inverted. Now, because I had the dark theme enabled, inverting the colors gives me this kind of, this light theme essentially. And if I had the light theme enabled, then inverting the colors would give me the dark theme. It's just going to flip the colors to the opposite of whatever they are, basically. So if you want your colors to be inverted inside your magnifier, then you can set that as a default within the advanced settings there. So let me go ahead and turn off the invert for a second. So yeah, I mean, that's the zoom. It's super helpful. And it can be called up at any time to magnify anything. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter where you are. You can always call up that magnifier and use it to help you read things. Now, Morphic, if you remember, is just using the Mac settings. And so now that I've changed the settings in the Mac system settings, when I turn on the magnifier in Morphic, it will reflect those changes that I made. So if I go back to Morphic now, if I hit the show button for the magnifier, then the magnifier settings are, still remain. So it's the size that I made it. It's set to the mouse always being in the middle, exactly like I had changed it. And so you could, go into the system settings, set up your mouse how you want it, your zoom lens how you want it, and then just use Morphic from that point onwards to call it up whenever you need it. But I will say it is very useful to know how to enlarge and make things smaller within the magnifier because, text that you're reading is going to be different sizes. And so, oftentimes it's not really a one magnification level fits all. You're probably going to need to change magnifications depending on what you're reading. And so you really do want to know how to do that. Okay, so we're back to our accessibility settings. We will take a look at hover text next. This is a cool little feature which allows us to enlarge any text that the mouse is on. I'm going to go ahead and enable it here. Actually, let me just close this Morphic panel. There we go. So I'm going to enable hover text. And at this point, if I hold down the command key, which is directly to the left or right of the spacebar, if I hold down that and the mouse is on any text, that text is going to be brought up in a custom window. And it will be very large and high contrast. So let me show you. So I'm going to move the mouse pointer over to some words on the left side here. So it's on the word control center, the words control center. I'll hold down command. And now those words control center have appeared below the mouse in a custom window, large print, high contrast. Again, if I move the mouse to other words here, same thing, same thing. If I let go of command though, that's going to disappear. So I can hold down the command key, put the mouse on any text, and it's going to show up. Now, sometimes this doesn't really work that great. Like if there's a lot of text there, it might not be able to fit it all on the screen. So, it's one of those things that you kind of have to try and see how you get on with it. But there are some options that we have. So next to where we enabled hover text, there is an I information button. And if we click that, it's going to open up some custom settings for hover text, including how large we want the text to be in the hover text window, what font we want the text to be, what key we press to bring that hover text window up. Default is command, but we could change it. This one I've never seen before. Triple press modifier to set activation lock. So you could, let's say our modifier is command, you could press it 3 times and that would leave hover text on. So you no longer have to press the command key because it will just be pressed for you and everything you put the mouse on will appear in that hover text window. And then we have some settings for the appearance of the hover text window in terms of the text color, the background color, the border color, and the element highlight color. I'm not sure what the element highlight color is, to be honest with you. But anyway, if you want the colors to be different, you can set it all there. So some good customizability. And again, cool thing to try. Now, here's something that I actually don't recognize. Hover typing. Let's see what this is. We'll turn it on. Okay, now it says something about typing. So I guess we're going to type something and see if anything happens here. So let me see. Let's go to our notes here. And we haven't used it before. Let's see if we can get it going. Hello.
Look, sorry, just a reminder of time. It's 1:46.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so let's see if we can create a note here. So you can go away. Okay, here we go. Okay, I can see what happened here. So I've got hover typing enabled, and what it's doing is, as I type here, it's got a hover text window up, and it's entering what I'm typing as I type it. That's pretty cool. Now let's see what happens when we type and we get to the end of this hover text window. Okay, so it enlarged it. Oops. Yeah, so it just kind of keeps up with what you're doing. Okay, that's pretty nice. So yeah, again, we would be able to customize this, so we could change the size of the text in the hover text window, the color of the text, and so on and so forth. But it's just giving us this additional window to show us what we're typing as we type it. Very nice stuff. That's I have to say that's pretty handy. Let's go back to where that was there. And we'll go ahead and disable those for the moment, but now you know about those, so you can play about with those if you would like to. Display, we already looked at some display settings, but let's go ahead and just look at some others. So we do have invert colors, and we have a mode, smart or classic. Now the smart should be intelligent enough to not change the color of pictures. So if we're looking at pictures, we usually don't want those to be different colors, but we do maybe want the text to be inverted. And so that's what the smart invert should do. The classic will just invert the color of everything. Increase contrast. This one's pretty interesting. It will really put a lot of contrast around things. So I'm not sure how visible this is right now, but this menu isn't very clearly segmented into the different areas. But if I click on increase contrast, all of a sudden, those different areas become a lot more visible. The contrast of the menu has increased, and we can do that further using a slider at the bottom. So as I go ahead and move the slider to the right, everything's going to get way more contrasty. Now we have to let's look at the desktop here. So this is our desktop picture now. It looks kind of wild. So, we're increasing the contrast of everything, which can be great for some things, like this window looks great now, but not so great for other things like, yeah, our background is looking kind of crazy. Tara is looking kind of crazy in Zoom here. So you got to be a little bit careful with your contrast. And it is kind of wild though, when you go from a high contrast to the lowest setting again, everything looks really washed out when you go to the lowest setting again. So even just a little bit of contrast makes a huge difference, I would say. So yeah, something to play around with there. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, yeah, here we go. So we can change text size for supported apps. This is very similar to what you can do on your iPhone as well, if you have one. It will change the text size within supported apps. Those are mostly going to be the Apple apps. So it will be, within your Apple email program or within, Pages, the word processor, or, the various different Apple apps. You can set the text size to be larger for that. And we also have some pointer settings here. These are going to be important. So we have a pointer size I've already enlarged mine, but you can make it larger still. So this would be a mouse pointer if you're finding it hard to locate. And you can also turn on this shake mouse pointer to locate option. So if we move the mouse pointer quickly, it temporarily gets larger. Right? It might be kind of hard to see. It's a fairly subtle effect, but it will temporarily kind of grow in size as we shake the mouse around. You can also change the color of the mouse as well. So there is an outline color and a fill color. If I set my fill color to, let's say, it's that way here. We'll set my fill color to yellow. And now my mouse is yellow. And then let's set the outline color to black. Should make it a little bit easier. And so now my outline color is black. So now I have a yellow mouse with a black outline, and it shows up nicely because I've got the dark theme on for my windows. So it's pretty good contrast there with the yellow against the black. But you can set that to, whatever you want it to be. So those are our display settings. And let's finally get on to spoken content here. Now, we already looked at this in Morphic, the ability to have things read aloud to us. But if we come into the system settings here, there are some additional things that we can do to change the voice and the way that it works. So we're going to spoken content. So at the top, we have system speech language. And so if we click on the drop-down box, you'll see there are a lot of supported languages here that you can use. And so if you are, primarily reading Spanish content, for example, then you could set the voice to Spanish. And now when you read, the Spanish content on web pages, for example, it will be read in an appropriate Spanish speaking voice, and it will pronounce the words correctly and so on and so forth. Underneath there, we have the system voice. We can set different voices, including some novelty voices. Let's try one of these out. We're going to try a jester. Okay, so this is one of the novelty voices. Let's see what the jester sounds like. And the way that we're going to get this to work here is using speak selection. So that's one of the options that we have. It's currently enabled. When we have speak selection enabled, it will allow us to do exactly what we were doing with Morphic before. So we can, I was trying to read something on the BBC, but it's trying to get me to pay for it. It's not very good. Let's see if we can do something else here. Here we go. No. All right, well, we'll read the text here anyway. So here is some text. I'm going to highlight the text if I am able to here. I'm not sure it's actually going to... Okay, I give up. Let's go to somewhere else. I don't know why it has to be so hard just to go to a news story. Okay, so let's try this here. So I'm going to find some text here. Say this text here. And we will highlight. Okay, now because we're not using Morphic, instead, in order to get this to read, we have to use a keyboard shortcut. By default, it is Option Escape. So let me hit Option Escape. Okay, now remember that was the jester voice. That's not the normal voice, so don't worry. Let's go back into our settings and we'll change it to something a little bit more sensible. Let's go for, we'll try Moira. She is an Irish voice. Let's see what she sounds like.
President Trump joins White House press briefing.
She sounds pretty nice. Let's see what else we got here. So let's try, well, we should try a US voice here, shouldn't we? So let's try Fred. See what Fred sounds like.
President Trump joins White House press briefing.
Fred is an eloquence voice by the sounds of it, so a little bit more robotic. But anyway, you get the point. There are a number of different languages, a number of different voices to choose from, depending on your preferences, so you can find the one that works best for you. Now, obviously, we couldn't change these voices through Morphic, so this is a good example of how coming to the system settings is going to give us some more options. So again, we are able to select text and have it read without using Morphic. We just have to remember the keyboard shortcut Option Escape. That's what's going to start and stop the reading. Now, when we are having text read aloud to us,
President Trump joins White House.
We get a control bar that appears, and it gives us some options for pausing and playing, stopping the reading altogether, skipping backward, skipping forward, We can slow the voice speed using the turtle icon, and we can increase the voice speed using the hair icon. And so these are going to be our reading controls that will be on the screen. Gives a bit more control over the reading which is happening. Once we're finished, we can just close out to that reading control panel. Let's see what other options we have. So we have some other reading things here that we can utilize. So we were just looking at speak selection, but there's some other useful ones here. Now, this one I do like. It's speak item under the pointer. We don't have this in Windows, and it's quite a nice feature. As we move the mouse around, it's going to speak whatever text is under the mouse without us having to do anything. So I'll go ahead and enable it.
Speak item under the pointer. Checked.
Okay, so now let's say I'm just moving the mouse and I encounter some text.
Speak typing feedback.
It's going to read it to me.
Speak item under the pointer. Speak selection. Speak announcements.
And you can hear wherever the mouse is, it's automatically reading that text. Now, this is cool. It also can get really annoying if you're just trying to move your mouse around.
Desktop Apple Intelligence
Everything
appearance.
is being read to you.
General.
And, that can get really tiring. You don't want that much voice. But luckily,
speak item under the pointer.
Where we enabled speak item under the pointer, we have the little eye for information.
Show detail. 1.
And there we have a slider that we can use to change the delay before the voice will speak. So
After
if
delay.
I increase the delay here. So the idea is now, as I move the mouse around, it's not going to instantly start to say the words that the mouse pointer is on. I actually have to leave my mouse on something for a little bit longer.
Speak typing feedback.
Before it will be read to me. So this is much nicer. In increasing that length of time is much better in general, because it means you're not going to be constantly getting bombarded by the mouse speaking things aloud to you. You actually have to leave it on something.
Speak selection.
For a little bit longer before it will be read aloud to you. We can also, and this will be the final thing here, enable speak typing feedback. And so all that is as we type, do we want the keys that we're pressing to be echoed back to us? This is great if you're not a very confident typist, because you can hear exactly the keys that you're pressing as you go. And so obviously that is going to give you that audio feedback to let you know whether you're typing the things that you want to type or not. And if we click the eye next to that option, then you're going to have some options there in terms of how the words are echoed back to you. So do you want to hear the individual characters as you press in the individual keys? Do you want to hear just words as you type them? And so on and so forth. All right, so we are out of time, but that is pretty much a overview of everything that's available on the Mac, and there's a lot of good stuff there. Now, we do have a video about this on our YouTube channel. But the video's a little old now, so we don't have all of the options, but we do have at least a good selection of them. One thing we weren't able to cover in this session is Siri. So Siri is available on the Mac as well, and I would recommend that you take a look at our video on our YouTube channel about using Siri on the Mac. The reason I didn't cover it here is because it's only useful for some things. It's not, it's not the greatest tool in the world yet. Although hopefully it will improve with some of the AI integration as time goes forward. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful.
Luke, this has been great. And I would like to correct myself about Morphic. You have mentioned it in your previous presentation.
Oh, okay.
So the only times that they have been mentioned in our presentations were by you.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate that. And for everyone, we just need to watch this presentation again at our own pace with our computers and go through everything that you have mentioned. This was great. Unfortunately, we ran out of time for any questions, but if somebody has like a pressing question, please go ahead. And if not, check the Vision Forward YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, we can forward them to Luke. Thank you very much again. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Luke, it has been great.
Thank you for having me. I will look forward to the next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.